Hello and welcome to the Unique CPA with your host, Randy Crabtree. In recognition of our commitment to our community of accounting professionals, this episode of the Unique CPA is brought to you by Bill and Bill's Accountant Console. Accountants deserve tools that work as hard as they do. Learn more at bill.com/uniquecpa and get a $250 gift card. Terms apply.
Today's guest is Ariege Misherghi. Ariege is Senior Vice President overseeing Bill's AP, AR, and accountants businesses. We will dig into that a little bit more, but first, Ariege, welcome to the Unique CPA.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, excited to have this conversation. Before we jump in, we had a pre-call a few weeks ago, and I was joking we should have hit record on that call because we were having a great time, having a lot of fun conversation. So same thing will happen here today.
Yeah, I hope to, I hope to deliver. Let's see.
You will. I can already tell. I gave you a quick intro. Give us a little more background on you and the journey that led you to Bill and the accounting profession.
Yeah, for sure. I born and raised in California. I studied computer science in school. Actually, it was a degree called Science, Technology, and Society. And I'm so glad I went in that direction for my degree because it really helped me kind of build a framework of how to think about the interplay between, the evolution of our culture and societal needs and technology, how they influence each other. My first job after college, though, was actually in customer service. And I was surprised by how much I loved that kind of work. Like there's some level of just accomplishment you get from serving your customers so fully that the immediate problem they're experiencing is addressed, and you get to live that over and over again in a customer service role. And it really shaped me as a professional, as a leader, and also as a product manager, which is what I did next. So vast majority of my career, 20 plus years, building products for small businesses and accounting professionals who need them across a variety of financial management domains, including payroll, accounting, tax, and now accounts payable and accounts receivable and spend management here at Bill. I love working for the accounting professional community because I find that we have the same kind of values, like the mission that gets me up every morning of helping my community and serving small businesses and just enabling their success. That's what gets accounting professionals up every morning too, right?
Yeah.
It's what they've devoted themselves to. So I love serving that profession.
Yeah, it is an awesome profession. I completely agree with you on that. Accountants are a special breed and they're fun to hang out with. And actually, that's a thing that probably most people don't realize, which is something that I think you and I have learned over the years, is that accountants are pretty cool.
They are. You're right. They're fun loving and they're extremely community oriented. So in addition to putting the needs of their clients first, they really love getting together, and finding, their best, the community connection is something I really enjoy too. I'm a pretty introverted person,
Really?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I feel like my energy gets charged when I, go to an accounting professional event and I'm just like surrounded by these pros that are like exchanging information and ideas and problems, and like everyone has each other's back. It's a very nurturing community.
Very collaborative.
Yeah.
Very not guarded with, hey, this is my secret. I'm going to share this with you. There's learned
no
this.
No gatekeeping among accounting professionals. I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, let's dig into that accounting professional a little bit more then, because it sounds like you are passionate about it and enjoying it. Not sounds like it. I know that for a fact. So having worked with accountants for so long, are there lessons that you've learned from, the accounting professionals, the people in it, that you've been able to use in your career?
Yeah. Number one, accounting professionals will always remind you to put their clients first. So that's, it's not just something that they do, but it's a baseline expectation they have. And as a person developing software in service of accountants and their clients, I know that the number one thing I need to do is make sure that whatever I'm building is the best tool that could be found for their clients. So that helps me focus quite a bit, actually, in thinking about the work that I do. The other I would say is just like the standards that accounting professionals have when using your tools. When you're building tools, especially in the financial management space, small businesses and even mid-sized businesses, like they're almost reluctant users of your tool. Like they use it because they have to use it, or they use it because they were told, that this is necessary in order for them to focus on what they want to focus, like automate this back office work so that you could do what you want to do. But accounting professionals are different. It's their professional tool, right? They're using what I build day in and day out. The effectiveness of the tool matters in terms of the value that they deliver to their clients. The quality of the tool, the performance of the tool matters. Accounting professionals care about things that small business wouldn't even think about. Load times, as an example, are like deeply felt and experienced by accountants because it's the tools that I build are their professional tools. So accountants have really taught me to sweat the details.
Yeah.
And to know that anything I put out, like if I'm going to move their cheese, if I'm going to change something in the experience, it better be worth it, right? So there's no willy-nilly updates or changes. It's all with a high degree of intention, highly tested, highly focused, knowing that what we're putting out is the professional tool that these pros are using to serve their clients. So like just a few examples of like ways that the profession has influenced the kind of work that I do.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It sounds like, when you are building these tools and finding out what they need, you were working closely with them rather than, because what I get concerns sometimes is like, hey, someone's going to build a product and then say, here, go use it. But it sounds like you're building a product that is going to fit the need that they have. And so I'm assuming you're on that two-way street of communication on what's working, what isn't, what we need, what we don't, that kind of conversations happening with your accountants.
Oh yeah, you have to. I mean, like it is not even just conversations. Like what I like to do is like watch them use my product and other products, right? Mm-hmm. So I can see the keystrokes. I can see where the pain is. I can see the process that happens outside of my product. I can see the one area that's actually been tough is like, I can't see the interactions they have with their clients, which actually I feel like would be a Rosetta Stone for a software developer. You know what I mean? But what I can do is talk to their clients. So I make sure that I not only speak to accountants and observe them, but I consult with them individually and collectively, and also the clients that they serve. So in order for me to deliver great experiences for accountants, I have to be super, super connected to small and mid-sized businesses and understand their needs and how their needs are evolving, both in their need for the software that I'm building, but also their need for the accounting professionals that serve them.
Yeah.
Like understanding the relationship and the nuance of that relationship is something that I like to geek out about.
I love it. I think that's super important. And I appreciate the fact you're doing that. Get clearer insight into payment status and cash flow with Bill's Accountant Console. Bill uses AI to simplify your tech stack so you can increase productivity and spend more time delivering truly personalized client service. Take a demo at bill.com/unique CPA and you'll get a $250 gift card. Terms apply. I was going to ask you about what keeps you energized about building for the accountants today, but I think you already expanded. If you want to answer anything else on that, I'd love to hear more, but I can tell that it's a passionate area.
It is. It's the mission. I mean, like, I'll just reinforce it's the mission. It's the mission. It's the mission. Like, all of us have a connection to small businesses. And, when you serve small businesses, you are serving your community. And there are a lot of ways that I try to serve my community. I'm all up in the city council sessions. I'm really involved in my kids' schools, and I serve accountants and the small businesses that make our downtowns better. That's like community service is a big theme for me. And the mission of just tipping the odds in favor of small business success is one I'm like really, really passionate about. And like the number one ally I have in that is the accounting professional community. So yeah, that's where the passion comes from. It comes from watching my dad struggle when we were growing up with the business that he was standing up. It comes from knowing that, what my neighbors are trying to stand up in our downtown community, is something that it's a struggle for them and it's a benefit for all of us. So anyway, those are the kinds of things I see in my just like everyday world that just reinforce you're right, the passion that I have, to serve this community.
Yeah, well, it is an amazing community, which I said already, but there can be issues with the accounting profession at times. Yeah. And I think sometimes they're self-induced, but I talk to firm leaders all over the country. I'm out at conferences nonstop. I'm very fortunate that I get to do this, but you hear about the things that they're struggling with, the pressures they're feeling. a lot of different directions, talent, margins, whatever, client expectations, obviously AI, which we'll dig into some AI stuff because that's going to be a very, very strong positive. But I think if people are feeling some pressure right now. But from your perspective, like what are the biggest challenges you feel the accounting profession is facing today?
Yeah. Look, I think you hit the nail on the head actually with what you described. I mean, I would say, the way when I speak with accounting professionals, they'll talk to me about talent shortages. I think that's true. But I also think like my frame on it would be less about like, hey, it's hard to find the right talent. And it's more for me about like, how do we enable them to scale with the talent they have? How do we help them coach up early career talent to the level of kind of client management professionals that have the gravitas and presence to engage directly with clients that can build confidence in clients. That's one example of a problem. You mentioned margin compression. That's true. Client expectations is a big one. Man, I've seen not just ever increasing client expectations, like expect more, but one of the nuances that I see behind that is that clients are coming to accounting professionals at a different time, Randy. So, whereas in the past, in the life cycle of a small business, a client may have self-selected in to get help sooner. Over the past many years, I'm seeing the point in which a small business says, hey, I need help, getting more and more delayed. You mentioned AI. Tools like AI are actually a big part of the reason for this. Like small businesses have confidence because they have this other brain, that they can engage with. They're less lonely in it, right? Like they've got, what they perceive as a thought partner to take them through a little bit longer until they get to the point of like real pain, until they get the IRS notice or, they get to some like critical point in growth or some challenge that they can't tackle. And because AI is a function of feeding back your own thoughts and perspectives, like kind of a generalization of, online thoughts. It's not yet unique thought. They still need the connection to a pro, but it's delayed. And that in and of itself creates a bunch of challenges for accounting professionals.
Yeah, probably cleanup being one of them. But there's, I'm sure, plenty of challenges. When you're talking about clients being more educated maybe or to whatever AI can do for them, what I've seen is that I heard at least the clients are coming in more with a specific question and they've looked it up on AI and they've said, this is what AI told me, all right, and this is what I need. And so they're coming with like almost a partial solution rather than just the questions that they used to come with. Is that anything you've seen when you've been talking with accounting professionals?
That's exactly right. And I hear it when I talk to accounting professionals, but I hear it even more when I talk to small businesses, like their clients. When I speak with them, what I hear from small businesses is like, hey, I think I know what I need to do. I don't exactly know how to do it, but I also just want like confidence that that this direction I'm taking is the right direction for me, or like some nuance on the house. So they kind of come in looking for part validation and part like walk me through the execution. But what I've seen from successful accounting professionals as this shift has taken place is they don't kind of fall into the trap of doing that. They use that as an opportunity to reinforce their value by unpacking the thinking behind the options, the what, the why, the how. And in those moments, like you can almost, they share with me that you could see the light bulb go off in the client's eyes. You know what I mean? Like the difference between the kind of sterile guidance that you might get from AI, or maybe like less customized guidance that you might get from AI versus like the nuanced, deep thinking that you get from an accounting professional. It's almost like the best opportunity and stage you have to demonstrate your distinct value in that moment. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do. I completely agree. And I think we're at a point in time with that, what you were just describing, where accountants, I say finally, they've been talking about being that strategic advisor forever. There's lots of stats out there that show that clients want to pay for this advisory and accountants don't have the time to do the advisory. And so they're still compliance based more than advisory based, but that's the point where now we can do that, whether the clients are coming in more educated or where we're adopting the tools now that are going to make us free up time to do this work that should be a higher value to our clients. So let's dig into AI. We mentioned it before, but obviously you're working with AI, you're seeing AI with your clients. So do you have like some practical guidance that firms can use to navigate, this whole AI conversation, either with their clients or internally with what they're doing?
Oh, absolutely. It's so funny. Maybe I'll just start with the client view, just kind of carrying on the conversation we were having of like, what do you do when a client is like, hey, AI is telling me to do X?
Right.
And, there's more nuance behind it. What's funny is I'm going to offer you some advice from like my own personal experience. Like because other professions are having the same problem. And like the medical profession is a great example. I took my son, I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. My son, was going through some issue. I was talking to his doctor and I was kind of sharing with his doctor what I had gleaned from AI and like what I thought was going on. And the doctor very patiently, after several back and forth, was like, look, I really appreciate that it is important to you that you are informed. And it's excellent that you've kind of come to this from a place of like collecting information. What I can do now is share with you like my professional experience and my and the output of my education. So let me walk you through how I think about it, which I thought was such an excellent and practiced reframe that doctor went through with me. And I do think that it put me in a different position. It's like, you know what, look, I'm here to get the advice of this professional. I sought this professional out for their input. Let me step away from what I think I know and learn from somebody who does this for a living. So I really valued the reset that I got in that moment. And it did help me think about like how I might show up in that forum differently. So anyway, I'm sure everybody is going through these experiences independently, but I've thought that to be an interesting anecdote that I recently went through that might be of value to accounting professionals. But to answer your question, there's so much that accounting professionals are having to navigate right now. And I see them leaning into very different modes. You have some folks that are leaning back and just kind of observing what happens. They're, still attending the conferences, they're listening to the conversation, but they're not really yet exploring and engaging. That is a very small chunk of professionals I found. I found that most accounting professionals are very forward leaning with any technology and also with AI. And that, to your point, maybe causes a lot of fatigue because they feel a responsibility, right? To learn and explore and get ahead and discover. I think for me, for accounting professionals that find themselves in that boat and just a little overwhelmed by what's out there and the demands on their time and that feeling that you have to learn in order to stay relevant. You have to spend your time constantly investigating to stay on top of things. My number one piece of advice is rather than start with exploring all the options that are out there, reading every email, looking at every site, checking out every app, just start with the problems that you have. Maybe one problem that you have, something that's taking your time that you just don't like doing, that you wish you didn't have to do, something that's taking your team's time. It's a very specific task. And get more task oriented with like, what is a point solution that might help me with this specific problem I have? It's just a more targeted way, time boxed way where you can feel successful because you can evaluate a specific option versus constantly being like having this feeling of being buried by every possibility that's out there.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And you said it early on in our conversation, accountants are out there, they're helping, they want to be on the forefront of things. And that's why they get not bogged down, the AI fatigue that you mentioned. They want to know they have the best tools. They want to know they have everything, but that's where they get bogged down because it's like, I just can't do it all. Do one small thing, find that big pain point that you can solve, and then you can work on the next. I love that advice. That's the way to do it.
And I'll give you one example of this. We're now recasting, I work at Bill, as you mentioned, recasting like the process of AP in the context of this new technology called AI, right? And so it's a bottoms up reimagination of an experience and a workflow. And I think often about like, yes, I want to do big thinking and, really reimagine this top to bottom. And we are. And also, what is a very painful, specific problem that I can just eliminate for our customers right now? This tax season, we took a big bite, and that bite was W-9 collection. And Randy, I don't know about you, but if you've ever been in a role where your job is to make sure that all those W-9s are collected and validated and ready for 1099s, oh my God, do you have your work cut out for you? It is hard to get to the attention of your vendors in January to close that out.
Right. Hey, that's a good example.
Yeah, exactly. So what we did was we released an agent that will automatically reach out to your vendors and collect the W-9 for them. It'll explain why we need a W-9. It'll offer the actual W-9 form. And when we get it back from your vendor, it'll follow up with your vendor. If your vendor has questions, it'll answer them. Follow up the vendor so we get that W-9. And once we get that W-9, we're not done. We then validate it. So we actually go a step farther than, usually a human-based collection of a W-9 can do, which is we'll go and we'll validate the TIN and the name, the address with the IRS. And if we get a hit, great. And if we don't, we'll let you know and we'll keep collecting. So it actually, what I love about what we've done is not only does it eliminate a whole workflow that was really painful, at a time that is high pressure, every minute counts, but we collect those W-9s faster than a person does with less pain. And also performing the validation means we're eliminating pain that would emerge down the line when the 1099 is filed and then rejected by the IRS. All of that is eliminated just by this one very specific agent to collect W-9s. And it's a year-round agent. We've collected since tax season over 100,000 W-9s on behalf of our clients. Like it's
nice.
Yeah, really effective. And it's one part of AP, and we're reimagining AP and spend management end to end at Bill. But this is just like an example of a very specific solution that causes a lot of pain that AI can just eliminate.
And you just create a capacity. We talked about, not finding enough people. You just took a lot of human time out of that equation, which then lets us dig into what we're good at, what we love doing. So
100%.
That's where I see AI being the future. So let's talk about a little bit more than Bill specifically and what, we talked about Bill being AI native, or I've heard this, but for listeners, or for me too, what does that mean? Can you define what AI native is?
Yeah, totally. I mean, AI native is a word that's thrown around a lot, but we are doing the work to quantify AI native experiences so that we can objectively say that our product is AI native. And really fundamentally what that means is a few things. Number one, that AI is so core to the experience that if you were to remove it, the product wouldn't just not function. And also that the product is built from the ground up in such a way that you could have an agent perform work on your behalf through the entire workflow of the product experience without any interruption or need for human intervention. That being said, while we're doing that, we know that when people choose an AP solution, when it's time for them to select an AP solution, it's often because they need some checks and balances. It's not just to digitize a workflow. It's often because they need some checks and balances. And the implication of that is that you need human intervention at certain points within the AP workflow to ensure those checks and balances. So while we're building an AI native platform, one of the things I love about the way we're doing it is that we're doing it in such a way as to enable you to apply your policies so that humans are included in the way that you need them to be, when you need them to be, consistently, and that the work that the agent is doing is completely transparent and auditable. So in the places where you don't want to do the work, like W-9 collection, like coding a bill, in all of those, like risk management and all those places, the work that the AI is doing is completely transparent to you and auditable.
Yeah, which for accountants, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, knowing that, trusting that what is happening is what should happen, and protecting data, that's another big concern that people have. And let's touch on that. I mean, because we're just talking about the trust and auditability.
Yeah.
Right now, you hear, hey, actually, I heard a story yesterday. A CPA was saying, yeah, one of my clients put their tax return in Claude and then came to me with all this questions. I'm like, wait, they put their tax return in Claude? That's something I think most of us know we shouldn't do. But that's the extreme. But when we're talking about trust and that, how are you with Bill and all that, making sure that data is protected and not going out there for everybody to see?
Yeah, totally. It's funny because you see all these apps that are out there and these vendors that are building software for accounting professionals and their clients, particularly in the financial management space. And the message is everything's automated, AI native, and they stop there.
Right.
And what's so funny to me is like, you think about the role of an accounting professional. The role of an accounting professional is to make sure that the work is complete and accurate.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're in audit or you're in tax or you're in bookkeeping, like whatever it is that you do, your job is to make sure that things are complete and accurate. And if all that work is happening in a black box, independent of your ability to audit, then it is unacceptable to you as a tool to use to deliver service to your clients. It's just unacceptable. One of the reasons I actually joined Bill, which is a Rene Lacerte company, is because they really understand accounting professionals, and how they work. And we talk about it every day. What will differentiate us in the market is that we understand accounting professionals and the criticality of ensuring that any automation that happens is happening in tandem with the ability to audit that work, but in a way that you don't have to audit the work. In other words, the transparency is present for you.
Right.
It happens where you've set a policy for us to go execute on your behalf. And in places where you require human injection, the work is ready for you when you're ready for it.
Yeah. And that, again, important to accountants. Auditability, transparency, trust is a guiding factor of how you're doing things. But what else is leading that guidance of how you're creating these products?
Yeah. The other two things that guide the way that we build are, number one, ensuring that fundamentally we're enabling firms to scale their capacity without necessarily scaling their headcount. So the time spent, the work eliminated. It's not even about saving time. It's so funny. One of the things I do is like transition my team from like kind of stopwatch testing of like, did we save people a minute here or an hour here or a week here? And it's like, yes, save time. But at the end of the day, what you want to know is that you can do much more work with the staff that you have. In other words, you can take on more clients, and it doesn't mean you need to add more people. So that's one. The other is this concept of like, how do we inject a risk-free experience into the product? And this is distinct from trust. When you're moving people's money, Bill moves 1% of GDP every year.
Oh.
Right?
That's a big deal.
Right. When you're moving that amount of money, you need to know who you're paying, how you're paying them, what's changed systematically. The degree to which we have optimized risk management is a major feature of the product experience. And when we inject automation on top of that, we will not compromise on our ability to continually protect our customers. So it is about trust and safety. It is about enabling people to scale capacity without scaling headcount and enabling them to manage the risk associated with money out that is inherent to any small or mid-sized business and is even more important to the accounting professionals who serve them at scale.
Nice. That's a good guiding light to have when you're doing all this.
Yeah.
Because I want to ask a final question. But before we do that, we discussed it earlier, AI, automation, integration, all this happening. It's going to make the accounting profession, I think, so much better. I know there was some fear from people. That's a bunch of whatever. It's not. This is unbelievable the positive impact this is having. But if for anybody that has this, like they feel they're behind or they feel they're not up to speed yet, or they feel that AI fatigue, let's say you were running a firm today, what would be like the first thing you would focus on to be prepared for the future, which the future is today. It is here. But what would the advice you'd give to that leader to be prepared or to get to that next step?
Again, I would start small. I would look for a specific workflow that you're looking to automate. I would make sure that I have a team that is in the right mindset, which I find most accounting professionals are, which is these tools are AI is exactly that. It's a tool to enable you to serve your clients better. And I would make sure that in my kind of evaluative measures of my team, I'm thinking about how effectively they're adopting and using AI. Like, how am I going to show them that there's a measurement around the effectiveness of their adoption of these AI tools so that everybody recognizes that their role is changing and expectations are changing and your expectations are changing in a concrete way.
Yeah. And change management in general is important. And that setting those expectations, showing what we're doing, I think is important. So great advice. Before I ask my final question, I want to give you an opportunity. Any final thoughts on anything we discussed or anything additional today?
My final thought is that I have a lot of optimism for this community, and it's because I've seen over and over and over again with new technologies, the community adapts. Like, accounting professionals are probably the most resilient group of professionals that I've observed, and it is inspiring to me. So I know that despite all this change, the accounting professional will be resilient as they always have been. Even for myself, I think I derive a lot of inspiration and optimism as a result of knowing that.
Oh, I completely agree with you. It's the greatest profession in the history of the world. At least I'm going to say that right now. And you already did. And so, okay. So then final question. This has been awesome. I appreciate your insights and everything you've shared. I am even more excited about the future of accounting than I ever have. And that's one of the key things I talk about right now. So thank you for all the information for me personally and our listeners. But what I want to dig into now is when you're not making this profession the most amazing profession in the world, what do you do for fun? We already heard you have 2 kids, but what is your outside of work passions?
Yeah, they're little ones, right? I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I really I'm trying hard to make their childhood magical. So that definitely takes a lot of time. Oh, yeah. So like, how can I be, I'm a very intense person, but like, how can I be intensely playful with them? You know what I mean? How can I be intensely fun and, encourage their passions and their interests? So I really, really enjoy spending time thinking through that and creating those experiences for them. I'm a really family-oriented person. And then I would also say, like, I love to swim. I love to bike. I love to take walks in our neighborhood. We have a beautiful neighborhood with gorgeous old mature trees. And I just love to feel the sun on my shoulders and like walk through the shade of those trees. And, that experience is lovely. I find a lot of, gratitude by being around nature, and it centers me. So the more I can be outside experiencing that, the better.
Nice. Another big smile on your face as you were talking about the kids and being out in the sun. So that's awesome. Yeah. I love hearing that. Well, Ariege, thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you for everything you're doing there at Bill. And thanks everybody for listening today.
It's a pleasure, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on the Unique CPA. You can find the show notes for today's episode and book Randy for your next keynote or event at randycrabtree.com. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting app. And join us next time for more expertise and insights on the Unique CPA. ProfessionalProductions.net